singlecharity.com. As we know, there are over 4 million refugees, and so what we're doing is we're working to promote jobs and businesses, also working on movable housing for refugees. So all the proceeds that we're getting from vendors and co-marketing and events and our podcast will go to helping refugees. We're a nonprofit project. We're not an organization, but we're not making a profit off of this. And the goal is to help Ukrainian refugees, particularly around their businesses and jobs. And, after the short-term needs of food and shelter are met, we really need to help them find employment and therapy for trauma, especially children. It's vital to provide this long-term support for refugees so that they can achieve financial stability and independence. The podcast is another part of it. There's a lot of different ways that we can get the word out and create the connections that we need to create. And a lot of that comes from the podcast interviews. We want to talk to lawyers and therapists and other people who are going to be able to provide services to Ukrainians. And again, we would like to involve music and art as well if we can. And we're building our presence in social media. Our YouTube channel already has over 100,000 views. The social media is bringing people to Single Charity, and the podcast is a whole host of different people appearing. If the refugees are talking about their challenges, if they're therapists or lawyers or other experts, they're talking about ways that they can provide help. And as I said, we may even bring in mobile housing into the mix to create that so that people can bring their houses back to their country after they are able to return. So, how can you help? Well, there's a whole bunch of different ways of collaboration. We've mentioned immigration advice from attorneys. CoMarketing is really important, and we'll talk about that in a later slide. Therapy for adults and children is vital, and so we're looking for trained therapists. Interpretation from different languages is really important. Counseling is important, employment for refugees, and just spreading news and awareness. So, if you can connect us to resources that we can employ that can help refugees, and that ranges from a whole wide variety of things, whether it's finding jobs for them, whether it's part of this initiative to build housing. There are tons of resources that we need. We would like to have on the podcast particularly analysis by reporters and experts, and you can help us working with social media to get the word out and the needs that the refugees have that we can fulfill or that we're looking to fulfill. As I mentioned, housing and housing construction. Currently, people are displaced from their homes, and so they may begin to build a new home. But if that home were on wheels, then they can literally bring it back across the border from Poland or wherever they're located. The co-marketing, that we'll talk about shortly, but essentially it is a profit sharing where you can sell a product and some of the resources that you generate and then go to helping refugees. So a lot of this is going to be focused around building episodes for our podcast where we can share what's happening. But again, the major focus is employing refugees and bringing therapy to them. As I mentioned, we really want to have immigration lawyers there on the podcast to help explain how we get visas. And we're working on a few ideas to try to get visas to the United States because as these millions of refugees spread out throughout Europe and due to economic challenges with fuel costs, the United States might be an optimal solution. And as I said, translation and interpretation are extremely important, especially for Ukrainians who aren't speaking the language of the host country. All right, so here we're talking about co-marketing. That's where I wanted to get. So the idea is that we're going to bring people customers that they would never know about, and then the sales help Ukraine. So how does that work? Basically, no cost to you, wherever you happen to be, and we send you customers from our YouTube channel and from our website and from our podcast and from our social media. And then hopefully you'll have a discount code so that we can track the referrals. And then you send us a pre-agreed upon percentage that we use to help refugees. So ideally it's going to be 50%, but we know some businesses margins are lower. And some businesses are like, yeah, I'll give you 100% or 80%. Whatever works, we'll just make that clear to people who are purchasing what percentage you'll be sharing with us. Interpreting and translating, if you're in a country where you don't speak the language, you're in trouble, right? So if we have people on the phone that can call up immediately and literally say in Ukrainian, this is what I'm trying to tell this person, and then our interpreter, who speaks whatever language it happens to be, can in real time convey that information. That requires a large number of interpreters, so right now we're looking for just enough to get us to asynchronous, so that you can send an email and say, this is what I want to show a person at an immigration office or employment. It explains my skills or my needs or what I'm trying to figure out. And so, that's all of what I'm talking about is available on singlecharity.com. Just reach out to us. The email address is singlecharityinfo@gmail.com. And again, we're looking for free translation and interpretation. That's all we're going to talk about today. So hopefully you'll get in touch with whatever area you're willing to help. Thank you so much.